Disturbing facts you'll wish you could unhear. After an autopsy, they don't put everything back where they found it. Instead, it goes into a bag that's placed inside the abdominal cavity. Morgues will hire more women than men in hopes of stopping necrophilia. In order for a person to decapitate a human head, you would have to rotate it 3 times counterclockwise in order for it to just pop off.
What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to my channel. How you guys doing? If you guys are brand new here to the channel, you guys don't know what we do, don't worry, I'm gonna break it down for you guys, man. We talk about the most scariest and creepiest videos on the net, on the web, from YouTube videos to TikTok videos, IG Reels, Facebook. Anything weird, unusual, unexplained, you can find right here on this channel. Just want to thank all my supporters who's coming back to the channel each and every single day, watching the videos entirely, man. Comment down below. Greatly appreciate the support. Find this video for you guys today, man. Let's do what we do best, seekers. Say it with me, y'all. Let's seek the truth.
These are videos you can never watch at night. Okay, so we all know how there's some videos you just can't watch at night because they're that scary. Well, in this series, I'll be showing you all those videos, so be ready to get scared.
What is that? That looks like a demi-globe.
Okay, so yeah, after watching that video, I'm definitely not sleeping tonight. What even is that thing? And just imagine you just see it crawling in your room right now. All I gotta say is I wish you the best sleeping tonight, because I'm telling you this much, I'm gonna have trouble.
So we know that the real story of the Little Mermaid is super disturbing. In the original Hans Christian Andersen story, once she's a person, she can't turn back into a mermaid. If she doesn't get the prince, she'll die. But her sisters find out that if she can spill the prince's blood, she'll be able to turn back into a mermaid. So they do what any sisters would do. They sell their hair for a dagger so that she can stab the prince. But in the end, she can't bring herself to do it. So it makes sense that Disney had to change that, but Disney's had to change a ton of other very disturbing details in their other movies. And just a reminder that if you have a dark curiosity, you'll love the podcast. In the original Cinderella, she doesn't get a dress from her fairy godmother. No, in the original tale, there is a tree growing next to her mother's grave, and Cinderella cries so hard over the tree that her tears water it. The tree gifts her a dress as a thank you. And then later, when the evil stepsisters are trying on the glass slipper, they realize it doesn't fit their big feet and they chop off parts of their feet. And then they go to the prince like, look at the shoes fit, and he sees that bloody mess and he's like, they absolutely do not. So a bunch of seagulls come and pluck their eyeballs out. That's all obviously terrible, but the original Mulan might be one of the worst ones. I'm gonna do part 2 for that though.
Facts about the ocean that are scarier than any horror movie. First up, I bet you didn't know that you can literally melt in the ocean. Because in the deep sea, there's something called hydrothermal vents that can reach up to 750 degrees Fahrenheit, which will allegedly cause your body to melt. But by then, you probably wouldn't even notice because all your bones would have likely been crushed by the pressure. The next fact is honestly even scarier to think about. You know how we have so many scary stories about sea creatures, like sirens, the Loch Ness Monster, or giant squids? Well, a lot of the creatures that used to be just a story are slowly being discovered as real. For example, the giant squid, which scientists found were not only real and over 59 feet in length, but are also cannibals. If that's not bad enough, here's more. Because the ocean is basically a giant graveyard. In 2014, researchers diving into an underwater cave in Mexico found the remains of a girl estimated to be 13,000 years old, meaning there's a high likelihood that if you go missing or drown that you would probably never be found. There's also 10 million viruses in every drop of seawater, meaning viruses in the ocean outnumber all of the stars in the Milky Way. The actual number is estimated to be 1 nonillion, which is a number I've never heard before, but here it is written out. That itself makes me never want to go swimming in the ocean again. Follow for more.
This is the creepy story of the Candlejack. The Candlejack is a real spirit that still exists to this day. He wears dark clothing and has never shown his face. Whoever says his name becomes the property of the spirit. Anyone who has seen this spirit has gone insane and was later found with their eyes missing. This spirit is very real, and if you ever say his name, he will come after you.
Stay away from Candlejack.  'Jack. Noted. 'Candlejack. 'Noted. 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 'Candle I don't get how people can be out.
What would you do if somebody offered you $3,000 to let your child try out a new playground? They tell you you're not allowed to tell anybody about this beforehand and you can't disclose the location of where I'm taking you. But they give you $1,000 up front and you get the other $2,000 after your child starts playing on the playground. You see, this is a trap because the playground is designed in order to hurt as many young ones as possible, or even to unalive them. This is the story of Aaron Beauregard's Playground. The story follows a bunch of lower income families that are tricked into doing this, and it's about all these young ones trying to survive the playground. It's obviously a horror novel, but I've heard a lot of people talking about it on TikTok recently, and I decided to pick it up. I've seen almost everyone unanimously agree that they can't get past page 40. I'm gonna read the whole book, but I'll give you an update on here once I get to 40. So I'm on page 41 now. Would not recommend reading that while you're eating. I see why that page made some people stop reading, but not in the way that I thought it would be. I'm gonna finish the book though.
What is a fact from history that seems too dark to be true? How about the fact that one night in the 1940s, every baby born inside of one Memphis hospital was stolen? This is coming from a Heart Starts Pounding episode, but one night, a 21-year-old named Jessie Henderson gave birth to a child in John Gaston Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee. And afterwards, a nurse comes in and says, "I'm so sorry, but your baby has passed away." The nurse doesn't tell Josie how the baby died, but she says, "You need to go to reception and they'll get everything sorted for you." So Josie's walking down the hallway, and as she is, she sees another woman out there crying who was also told that her baby just died. And then she sees another woman who's crying and was also told that the baby she just gave birth to had died. All in all, there were about 7 women in the hallway that had all been told that their babies had died, and Josie starts thinking that this is kind of weird. And Josie didn't know it yet, but every baby born in the hospital that night was stolen by this woman, Georgia Tan. Georgia was a social worker and she was friends with everybody at the hospital, and her dad was a judge, and she basically came up with this sort of kickback program. She basically told the nurses that if they took all the newborn babies and gave them to Georgia and told the mothers that they died, she would be able to sell them to adoptive parents and she would give them a little bit of the money that she earned. And I know it sounds absolutely unfathomable, but Georgia did this to 5,000 children, and I basically did a 2-part series on her for the Heart Starts Pounding podcast, and you can start listening to this episode. She says she was a social worker and then children started disappearing.
Haunted. So she was selling kids and put the nurse on a kickback program. Those nurses who joined that, no mores at all. Literally selling kids just for some money. Come on, man. People gotta be better.
Dolls from around the world. America. Annabelle.
I know, yeah. And she's missing right now.
Japan. Okiku.
Creepy hair.
Singapore. The Barbie doll on the girls' shrine. Australia. Letter. Brazil. Farfan.
Looks like a pig.
Canada. Mandy the doll. Italy. Pupa the doll.
Scary things you never knew. The last one is shocking. Taylor Swift was one celebrity that said she was concerned with climate change. But funny enough, her private jet emits more carbon in a single trip than your car does in your entire lifetime. And that jet has flown over 200 times in the past year. This is supposedly where you'll be in the next 5 years. Comment down below what your month says about you. The United States has about 6 nuclear weapons that are still missing, and nobody knows where they went or who has them. A man had donated his mother's body to scientific research when she had passed away. The research facility then sold the body to the US Army for $5,000. The Army then strapped it to a chair and blew it up with explosives. Would you rather spend one night in this bathroom or kiss the third person that appears when you click share and then more? If you Google Halloween Google 2022, a scary multiplayer game will pop up that you can play with your friends. Go try it and let me know if it works for you. Before we get to the last scary thing, please support my page by clicking the follow button for more interesting posts every day. Ducks sometimes become cannibals due to boredom. Yeah, they're not so cute now. What's worse is this behavior starts as early as 4 weeks old.
What? ducks becoming cannibals, bro? Donald Duck, Dark Origins confirmed, man.
I have some theories about what I think is going to happen in Terrifier 4, and I want to talk about them. Spoiler warnings for Terrifiers 2 and 3. Let's get into it. For starters, I do not think Jonathan is actually dead. I think that would be a really bad mistake on their part. I think Art is holding on to Jonathan as a backup plan just in case things didn't go right with Victoria and Sienna, and they didn't. I think Art is going to use Jonathan as his new good vessel. So I predict in Terrifier 4, Jonathan is going to be the corrupted one that Sienna has to go after. I am also suspecting we're going to keep up the Christian holiday theming by making an Easter horror movie. They have already made it obvious that Sienna is supposed to be an angelic, Christ-like figure. They have literally put the crown of thorns on her head while they have a guy crucified to the wall behind her. And she has already risen from the dead. I think that they could take it a little bit more on the nose and have it be an Easter holiday movie, and I think that would be really fun. And we already know that Sienna is going to have to literally go to hell to save her cousin Gabby. And to get the sword, that's the only thing that could kill Art the Clown, Satan himself, supposedly. And I think the idea of Sienna having a brother, while it wouldn't be of his own willingness, would betray her like a Judas Christ situation. I think Easter would be an interesting concept for this movie. Plus, Art the Clown in a bunny suit is just as good as seeing him in a Santa suit.
3 ways to survive Jeff the Killer. Number 1. If you see a boy holding a knife at the edge of the woods, don't go near him and run the opposite way. Jeff is extremely strong and fast. Once you get too close, it's already too late. Number 2. Don't ever go looking for Jeff. Looking for him is an extremely bad idea, being so that he's extremely sick and twisted, and he'll probably do things that you wouldn't like being done to you, so looking for him shouldn't be on your list. Number 3. Don't ever make waffles past midnight, being so that Jeff is extremely obsessed with them. He loves waffles, and once he gets that scent, he'll walk towards them, ending up in your kitchen with a knife. Like and follow for more videos.
Dang, stay away from waffles, man.
If you scare easily, swipe on. In 1989, a woman started hearing strange banging sounds in her walls and in the ceiling, and then one night the crawl space to her attic was open, so she went to go have a look. When she's just feet away, an old man suddenly appears in the crawl space and looks her dead in the eye before vanishing. There was nobody else in the house. Worried no one's going to take her seriously over an apparent ghost in her house, she ends up calling a paranormal investigator. When the paranormal crew arrived, they were actually very skeptical until they heard loud banging in the attic and they decided to go up and have a look. As soon as the 2 men get up into the attic, one of them screams and suddenly disappears. The other, who didn't have a flashlight, starts using the flash on his camera to illuminate the attic. And he takes one of the most famous pictures in paranormal history. His partner, who was in total shock, had been lifted off the ground and tied to one of the beams. That was the last night the woman ever stayed in the house. However, it's still being rented out today, but nobody stays longer than 1 or 2 months.
No, I'd put up the deuces on. I'm out.
Disturbing facts you'll wish you could unhear. After an autopsy, they don't put everything back where they found it. Instead, it goes into a bag that's placed inside the abdominal cavity. Morgues will hire more women than men in hopes of stopping necrophilia. In order for a person to decapitate a human head, you would have to rotate it 3 times counterclockwise in order for it to just pop off. When X-ray technology first became widely available to pediatricians, they noticed a startling number of broken bones. Doctors assumed they discovered a new rare bone disease, but in fact we just didn't know how common child abuse was. If you ever feel down, there is enough carbon inside of your body to make a diamond. So theoretically, you could wear the love of your life on your ears. The person you marry in your lifetime is statistically the person that is going to take your life. Make sure to like and follow for more videos tomorrow.
Weird facts. Especially that last one.
Gruesome facts you didn't know, part 124. In 2010, the Japanese government opened its execution chambers to the public for the first time, allowing journalists to take a tour of Tokyo's main gallows. Inside is simply a trapdoor, a Buddha statue, and a ring for a noose. Inmates on death row in Japan aren't told when they're going to be executed until the very last minute to prevent panic among the inmates. Family members, lawyers, and media aren't told until afterwards. When the inmate is in position, 3 prison wardens all have separate buttons. Only one releases the trapdoor and they never know which one it was. Call of the Void is the name for the feeling you sometimes get when you want to steer into oncoming traffic or jump off a cliff. although you would never do it. In 2014, Charles Manson was granted a marriage license to marry superfan Afton Burton. She had been communicating with Manson since she was 17 years old and visiting him for at least 9 years. But in February of 2015, the license expired without a ceremony ever taking place. The wedding was allegedly canceled after Manson found out that Burton and a friend only wanted to use his corpse as a tourist attraction after he died.
Damn. She put up that farce for 9 years just to get some of that money.
Phone numbers you should never call, part 12. Here is the phone number. This number belonged to a hospital for mentally insane people in the 1900s. The building one day caught fire and a lot of people were trapped inside, and a lot of them died. So the building has been abandoned ever since. But when you call that number, you can hear a very creepy recording of a woman. She greets you and talks to you with a creepy and disturbing background music, the one you can hear in a circus or something. Would you call the number?
No, I don't need that energy in my life.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. You are the oldest that you have ever been and the youngest that you will ever be. Your bed absorbs 26 gallons of your sweat every year. There are 15 dead people for every one person alive. Science can't measure exactly how strong a gorilla is, so there's no sure way on how to contain them. The gorilla enclosures at zoos are just based on trust. Every 18 minutes, someone in the United States has a brain aneurysm that ruptures. Vampire moths are real and can feed on the blood of humans. A jar of peanut butter contains 10 or more rodent hairs and can contain up to hundreds of insect fragments. Big Bird almost joined NASA's Challenger mission to help kids become more interested in space. Millions of kids would have watched Big Bird and the Challenger space shuttle explode on live television. Follow for more.
So it was a good thing he didn't join.
Videos that can't be explained. The last one is crazy. This brother and his little sibling was just hanging out when all of a sudden... Supposedly you can see if an app is spying on you by clicking the share button, sliding all the way down, clicking more. If you see an app that you don't recognize in front of your contacts, delete it immediately. That's not everything that happened to the son. He starts to see demonic figures that his parents seem to can't see.
Mom, what is this? Huh? What is this? Mom, nothing, Yakub. What, Yakub? There's so much. There is no one, Yakub.
Somebody did.
Also, did you know that TikTok has a secret emoji? If you type the letters SCREAM in all lowercase with the bars around it, just like this, you'll unlock it. Let me see how many of you actually can do it. Before we get to the last part, make sure to hit that follow button because I post scary videos like this every day. The demonic presence finally reveals itself to the family on the house's security camera in the door's reflection.
Yakub, I said you need to finish your game now. It was already 1 hour, you just playing. 10 minutes. No, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. What, when you are going to school, I said no, 5 minutes. And you will off the game? No. I said 10 minutes. My mom always like saying, I do. Oh, man.
Tourists fled for their lives as huge ash clouds exploded from Mount Etna. Europe's most active volcano had experienced some activity overnight, but within a few hours, it had escalated to continuous explosions of growing intensity.
Ready to get out of there.
This is a true dark web story. Two best friends, Vivian and Bella. They're sophomores studying programming in college. In their second year of college, they started having weekly assignments that were done at home. And Bella was the only one in class that was getting straight A's in these assignments. Vivian, which is Bella's best friend, wanted to ace these tests so bad. So she asked Bella to help her out. But Bella spilled the truth telling Vivian that she never studied for these assignments. She had a guy from the deep web that was experienced in programming. She pays him so little and he provides her the assignment answers. Vivian was kind of freaked out because she heard so many stories about the deep web. A few days later, the professor announced the next assignment date. Vivian went back home the same day and asked Bella how to get in touch with that same man. So Bella sent her the Onion web link, and that web link took her to a site that has a chat box with that man. So Vivian got in touch with that man as well, and surely she started acing all her tests with Bella. They were known as the smartest girls in that school. So weeks passed by and Vivian sent questions to that man from the deep web for her next assignment. The man refused to take that payment for that specific assignment. Then he asked for another form of payment, so Vivian got confused and then offered to double the amount. The man still refused and insisted on taking inappropriate pictures from Vivian as a form of payment. The thing that scared Vivian was, how did the man know that she was a girl? Name, age, gender, and location are all supposedly anonymous on that website. But he somehow found out a few things about Vivian. She immediately logged out and quit contacting that man. The next day, Vivian goes to class and asks Bella if the man did the same thing to her. Bella said yes, I was already sending him inappropriate pictures regularly. And that same night, Vivian was at home having dinner. She got many calls from an unknown number. She picked up, and it was that man. And he told her that she has no choice but to send the pictures. Vivian eventually hung up the phone, and then an hour later, she received a text from another unknown number. She opened that video, and she saw Bella tied up on her bed, dead. There was a text right under the video saying, "You're next." He freaked out and then contacted the authorities. The police investigation took many months. Vivian eventually dropped out of that school and then transferred to another state. The scary thing behind all of this is that this man, that's a specialized programmer from the deep web, was never found, and he's still out there.
Gotta be careful, man, when you're on that side of the net. I've never even attempted to venture on that side because these clips I've been watching together with you guys, man, it's not even worth it. It was acing that test, but at what cost?
Buckle the fuck up because this is a wild ride. The incident in Ghostland is about these two sisters, Beth and Vera, and their mom, Colleen. And the three of them are traveling to a relative's house who recently died. On the way there, they hear on the radio about the string of home invasions that's happened in the area. And, of course, they then become the next victims. That night, two intruders break into their house, and they are known as the Candy Truck Woman and the Fat Man. A really intense struggle ensues between all of them, but Colleen ends up actually killing both intruders and saving everybody. Fast forward, the girls are both adults, and Beth is now a successful author. But one night, she gets a call from Vera, who still lives in the same home with their mother. Beth shows up to the house to see what's going on and finds that Vera is essentially locked in a padded room in the basement, and Colleen explains to Beth that Vera is so traumatized from the night that they were attacked that she's never been able to move on from it. And Vera explains to Beth how she is still convinced that the intruders are still out there and trying to get them. So Beth starts having these super weird dreams, and one night she is attacked by the Candy Truck Woman, who takes her to the basement. And she finds Vera also in the basement, beaten. At this point, Vera is crying and begging Beth to wake up and face reality, and this is where the plot twist just hits us in the fucking face. Because the reality is that Beth is not remembering things the way that they actually happened. So now Beth has a flashback, and it's revealed that the intruders actually killed their mother directly in front of them. And Beth and Vera are not adults. And in fact, they never made it out of the basement. In reality, they are still teenagers being held captive in their own basement. Beth completely dissociated and came up with this fantasy adult world to cope with them watching their mother get murdered in front of them and also cope with what's happening to them in real time. And she retreats into this fantasy world where her adult life is perfect and everything she dreamed of because it's easier than acknowledging what's happening to them in the current moment. So at this point, she's back to reality, and the Fat Man takes Beth upstairs and tries to SA her. But Beth puts up one hell of a fight and manages to free Vera from the basement, and the two of them escape out of the house. And they make it out to the road where they find a couple of police officers who call for backup. But just when you think everything's gonna be alright, it's not. The Candy Truck Woman shows up and shoots the cops, recaptures the girls, and takes them back to the house. So Beth once again dissociates and retreats back to her fantasy life. But this time, adult Beth sees Vera screaming for help, and she makes a conscious decision to come back to reality to rescue Vera. Beth breaks free from the Fat Man and gets into this really intense and violent fight with the Candy Truck Woman. But finally, the backup that the cops called for shows up, and a state trooper arrives and shoots the Candy Truck Woman and the Fat Man. More police show up and they take Beth and Vera out of the house to safety. And the last shot is Beth looking back and seeing a ghostly apparition of their mother, who we now know was murdered, in the window waving goodbye. goodbye to them. This is just such a tragically beautiful movie.
Wow. A lot of plot twists.
At around 8 p.m. on August 19, 1962, a 12-year-old boy named Raimundo Marfa da Silva sat near the fireplace in the main room of a shack in rural Brazil. Raimundo lived in this shack with his father Revelino as well as his 2 younger brothers. And so that night, as Raimundo sat by the fire, his father Revelino came into the room and he sat down next to him. And the two just sat there quietly, periodically poking at the fire with a stick and just sitting there enjoying the silence. And as these two were sitting there, suddenly Raimundo heard a strange sound coming from the kitchen. And he saw this dark figure on all fours quickly kind of maneuvering across the ground out of sight. And immediately Raimundo's terrified. He has no idea what this is. And so instinctively he turns to his dad, and his dad is also staring at the kitchen, wide-eyed, clearly having seen the same thing. And then before Raimundo could do anything, his dad jumped up and slammed the door shut, separating them from the kitchen, and locked it. But eventually, Revelino and his sons began to hear voices, and they were coming from outside the shack. Whoever was out there, or whatever was out there, was talking about Revelino. They could hear that name, and what they were kind of saying is, if Revelino comes out here, we're going to kill him. And at that point, Revelino told his sons to stay put, and he was going to go out there and investigate. He's got a knife in hand, just in case Revelino went outside. And that was the last time the boys ever spoke to their father. 6 months later, on March 10th, 1963, 5 men were out hunting in the wilderness not far from Raimundo's family's shack. And at some point, they came across this huge boulder, and this boulder had a big crevice in it, like a big gap in this rock. And one of the hunters happened to walk past it and looked into this crevice, and they found a skeleton. And that skeleton belonged to Revelino, Raimundo's father. But that was not the end of the story. Far from it. So on the day that Revelino stepped out the front door and then was never heard from again, Raimundo and his brothers had been instructed by their dad to stay put while Revelino went out looking around. But Raimundo just felt really nervous after his dad had stepped out the front door and had presumably stepped outside. So he defied his father. He opened up the door that led outside. He saw his dad stepping into this huge cloud of yellow smoke. And amidst this smoke were these like cylindrical objects that were floating in the air, spinning around in a circle, seemingly spitting out this smoke. And Raimundo, he had no idea what he was looking at. And so Raimundo yelled out for his dad, like, "Dad, where are you going?" And he charged towards his father to try to stop him. But as soon as Raimundo went out into the yellow smoke, the smoke just dissipated, the cylinders disappeared, and as soon as it was all gone, his dad was gone too. And so quickly, Raimundo and his brothers alerted authorities, and they launched this search for him, and for days they combed the area near that boulder as well, and they couldn't find Revelino. And so eventually, they abandoned the search. And then 6 months later, his body was magically found in that crevice. To this day, nobody knows what actually happened to Revelino and how he wound up inside of that rock crevice.
Creepy facts about our world. The Devil's Bible exists, and is said to be a contract between a 13th century monk and Satan. Also known as the Codex Gigas, it's the largest Latin manuscript known to the world and contains a full-page portrait of Satan. Ancient Romans believed that drinking blood would let them absorb power. During gladiator games at the Colosseum, members of the audience would rush into the field to ravage the blood off of fallen gladiators. The Museum of the Souls of Purgatory in Rome, Italy, displays documents signed by haunted souls in purgatory. The small museum displays several documents and photos with handprints that they claim to be from the dead or souls stuck in purgatory. Your bed might have up to 10 million dust mites in it right now. Dust mites love warm beddings and skin cells, which makes your bed an ideal home for them. They're microscopic and multiply by the tens of thousands.
This is unbelievable. Chinese scientists have successfully used stem cell technology to grow deer antlers on mice, resulting in a major breakthrough that could one day see humans regrow lost limbs. The researchers were able to identify and extract these cells responsible for the rapid growth of antlers on deer, and then transplant these cells onto the foreheads of the mice. And just 45 days later, these mice started growing small stumps that actually contained cartilage and bone. The team hopes that this procedure could one day help repair bones or cartilage in humans, or potentially even grow back lost limbs. The question is this exciting or just weird?
I think I'm gonna have to go with weird, man, because once you start freaking crossbreeding, bro, that can open up a whole can of worms that wasn't intended, man. People can use it for different purposes, and we can go down a very dark slope. So I don't know how people gonna feel about that one, bro. Crossbreeding, cross genetics.
The past couple of years, we've been seeing more and more of these cases of mothers throwing their newborn babies in the garbage. You've probably heard of this case in 2023 when 19-year-old Alexia Treviso gave birth to her baby in a hospital bathroom, which then she threw her baby in the trash can and her baby did not survive. Another 19-year-old in New Mexico named Alexis Avila also threw her newborn son in a dumpster behind a shopping mall. Luckily, the baby was found alive by 3 people who were looking through the garbage. Now, last week, another baby was found in a dumpster behind an apartment complex in Houston after someone heard a baby crying. When EMS arrived, they pulled the baby out of the trash bag with his umbilical cord still attached, and based on the baby's condition, it was obvious that he was just born. Police looked at surveillance footage and realized that this 18-year-old named Everilda, who worked at a taco truck beside the apartment, gave birth inside the truck and then threw the baby in the dumpster. She was then arrested, and she did admit to it and said that she did it because she feared that her boyfriend would break up with her. See, my thing is, if you cannot keep the baby for whatever reason, there are other options. You can drop the baby off at a hospital, and a lot of times they won't even ask you for anything. Why are we throwing babies in the garbage? This 18-year-old was charged with abandoning a child without intent to return, and her bond was set at $200,000.
The unsolved final footage of Lars Matank is just as chilling as it is confusing. But the story really starts back in 2014. This is 28-year-old Lars, and he ends up taking a trip to Bulgaria with his friends. So at a night out at a bar, he ends up getting into an argument with several unknown men, which results in a fight, and he ends up rupturing his eardrum. Because of his injury, he insists that his friends are going to fly back without him, and he's just going to stay behind and recover for a few days. But as soon as he's left behind in the hotel, this is when the strange and erratic behavior becomes almost immediate, and he starts becoming paranoid and thinks there are men following him. Which then leads us to this final footage where we see Lars arriving at the airport, presuming that he's there to catch a flight because he has luggage in hand. But then for an unknown reason, we see him sprinting out of the terminal into the parking lot, and this was the last time he has ever been seen on camera. To this day, what Lars thought he was running from or where he went remains a complete unknown in this case.
What happened to Lars, bro? That's eerie, man. Imagine going leave your friend and never hearing from him again. And that's the freaking last footage you saw.
And she says, "Hi, Jamila."
Cheese. Cheese. What you doing?
What are you looking at?
What? What do you see? Who are you saying hi to? Who are you saying hi to? Dude, you need to stop that. You're freaking me out. Come on. Where are you waving at, Lev?
Oh, man.
Was she, did you come up Lars couldn't walk?
She was old. She could walk, but she was old. Okay?
Mommy, your grandma's here. And she says, "Hi, Jamila."
What?
Your grandma's here. And she says, "Hi, Jamila."
Follow for more.
She was talking to her grandma?
Unsolved mysteries. This picture shows unsolved mysteries from the most well-known to the darkest of the dark. Some of these mysteries will drive you crazy and make you question everything. In this series, we'll be picking some from each category until we reach Tier 10, which will apparently make you and me question our entire existence. Without further ado, let's get into Tier 1. This is Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, and it's one of the most famous unsolved mysteries of all time. Now, the 8th of March 2014. The plane was flying from Kuala Lumpur International Airport to Beijing capital. However, the plane never reached its destination. After just over 2 hours, the flight disappeared off the radar, and ATC had no contact with the plane. Days after the mysterious disappearance, people started looking into it, but found absolutely nothing. Not even any debris was actually found initially. It's believed that the plane could have actually been hijacked. And it's also, of course, possible that the plane did just crash somewhere in the sea. But nothing was found. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss tier 2. It's about to get crazy.
Here are some events that will happen by the year 2050. The sad truth is, by the year 2050, half of the world's population will not have access to clean drinking water.
Whoa.
Half of the Amazon rainforest will be deforested, leaving many animals without any shelter at all. In 2025, SpaceX is sending their first cargo ship to Mars. And if all goes well, they are sending their first humans to Mars by the year 2050. So who knows, maybe by 2050 we will have the first civilization on Mars. Animals are getting more dangerous and more powerful every year. Animals are evolving every day, becoming more of a threat to society. I'm not talking about your regular house pet, I'm talking about wild animals. For instance, in 2020, we found the first flying spider, your worst nightmare. You thought the coronavirus was bad? Well, by 2050, there could be more deadly viruses affecting the world than ever before. You better keep that face mask. The population will be 9.6 billion.
Hey man, we gotta be aware, bro, of things freaking coming to the future, man. The thing about flying spiders, hell no. See, I can't do that. That's just something I refuse to believe in, bro. No.
Yo, what's up? Here's some scary facts about our world that you probably didn't want to know. Part 10. It has been said that in some cases, if you hear ringing in your ear, it could be signs of a dead family member trying to contact you. Hey, Grandma. Many statistics have shown that blue-eyed people are more likely to suffer from alcoholism and depression than anyone else. You've got to be kidding me. There have been some cases reported of doctors selling their patients' blood on the dark web. Number 1, why would a doctor need to make any more extra money? Number 2, why are you selling a patient's blood on the dark web? One time a lady found toenails in her chicken nuggets at McDonald's. There's a reason I don't eat McDonald's. 4 actors from The Poltergeist died shortly after the filming of the movie because they thought there was a hanging curse over the movie that caused them to die.
We ain't eating no freaking McDonald's chicken nuggets no more. Those out, bro. Toenails and chicken nuggets?
Imagine your best friend sleeping with your 6-year-old daughter, and that's not even the worst part of it. He films it and keeps it in his phone. This is one story that will live in your head rent-free, haunting and frankly disturbing. So this story happened in Russia in September of 2021, and it's about 2 friends, 32-year-old Oleg and 34-year-old Vyacheslav, who they say have been best friends for a very long time. Vyacheslav was married with kids. He and his wife had about 2 children at the time. And so every once in a while, maybe when either of them are busy or when both of them were busy, Vyacheslav would leave his children in the hands of his best friend Oleg to babysit till either he or his wife returns from work. And also for the fact that to the kids, Uncle Oleg was an uncle. He was pretty much family. Little did they know that something was wrong with Uncle Oleg. The whole story unfolded from August of 2021, and it so happened that one day while the 2 friends were hanging out in a bar, Vyacheslav picked Oleg's phone just to go through it for fun, and that was when he stumbled upon a video that looked off. He clicked on the video and saw his friend, the 2-year-old man, sexually assaulting his 6-year-old daughter, and that set him off. It was said that he confronted Oleg, and immediately Oleg ran away because at this point his cover has blown. Not only was he molesting his best friend's daughter, there were videos of him molesting about 7 other children in his phone multiple times. Click the link on our bio to get 820,000 naira bonus with 150 free spins to win exciting prizes using our promo code TCD to register.
Creepy fact you probably don't know, but you're about to. Part 2. At one time, doctors thought that babies didn't feel pain. It took up until 1987 for the American Academy of Pediatrics to declare that it was unethical to operate on babies without anesthesia. So that means for years, babies were forced to just sit there and suffer through surgery without any form of pain control or anesthetics. So yeah, that's kind of scary.
Yes,
These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. When Apollo 11 landed, it only had 20 seconds of remaining fuel. 4 months ago, a deceased rapper by the name Gunu had his corpse on stage while fans were partying around his body. The average person wastes 5 months of their lives waiting for red lights to turn green. Cruise ships have morgues, just in case someone, during the trip. If you have red eyes after swimming, It's not from chlorine. It's from the chlorine mixing with other people's urine. The furthest part of the ocean from land is Point Nemo. If you get stuck there, you're not coming back. Sunburn are your cells dying to avoid being cancerous. Most laugh tracks and shows are people from the 50s, which means you're hearing the laughter of dead people. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 14.
Gotta find some more of those, bro. Let's keep us
Cute
informed
animals
knowledge.
that are actually horrifying, part 1. I know we all think of walruses as cute little fellas that make for great stuffed animals, but what if I told you they have a habit of sucking the brains out of baby seals while they're still alive?
What?
Walruses normally use their incredibly strong suction to vacuum clams out of their shells, but some wanted something a little meatier, and have used their strong suction for a much more sinister purpose, which I call the death hickey. They grab a young seal with their flippers, wrap their lips around the poor guy's nose, and turn on the vacuum, sucking the brains out through the seal's nose like it's drinking a smoothie. After it's had its appetizer, it hickeys off some other pieces of seal meat until it's done with its meal. But the wrath of walruses isn't limited to seals. I went into various walrus attacks on people in my latest YouTube video if you guys want to check it out.
Man, what the heck? It's news to me, bro. When you see walruses, they, like they said, they always display them as, you know, they're kind, loving animals. They're braid eaters, bro. Shocking our reality. Wide open, man.
Here's the dark truth behind The Wizard of Oz. The actress that played Dorothy, Judy Garland, was actually drugged and molested during filming. She was also given adrenaline shots so that she could stay up to sometimes more than 48 hours in a row. And there was also reports that she was molested and sexually harassed by both the Munchkin actors and studio executives. The actress that plays the Wicked Witch also got horrifically burned on set. In this scene where the Wicked Witch escapes Munchkin Land in a plume of smoke, the pyrotechnics team accidentally set off the explosion a little too early, which caused the actress's broom, hat, and makeup to catch on fire. Medics had to use alcohol to remove her toxic makeup, which was extremely painful due to her burns. And the fake snow in this scene was made using asbestos, which causes cancer.
Hey, man, these movie productions back in the day, they sound
Recent
cursed.
Discoveries, Part 2. Just last month, archaeologists examining a newly discovered ancient Egyptian cemetery found this lid on the coffin of an ancient priestess. It's clear that whomever arranged for her funeral wasn't prepared to pay top dollar for her burial. The internet has also pointed out that the image closely resembles Marge Simpson, even though the coffin is more than 3,000 years old. Last year, a perfectly intact 1,500-year-old arrow was discovered nestled between some rocks in Norway. The research team thinks it was encased in ice, then transported downslope as the ice melted. An amateur diver exploring shallow waters near Israel recently discovered this 900-year-old iron sword. Experts believe it belonged to a Crusader knight before he lost it overboard during a fierce battle in the 11th century. An incredible discovery was recently made during renovations at a church in Naples, Italy. Behind a 16th century painting called Life of San Severo, workers found a hidden painting depicting St. George slaying a dragon.
Whoa. Hidden treasures. Hidden within.
These are scary facts about popular childhood movies, Part 1. Up first, Claire Blandick, who played Auntie M in The Wizard of Oz, suffered from arthritis that was so painful that she committed suicide at the age of 85. She did her hair and makeup one final time and put on a nice dress before overdosing on sleeping pills. She then left a note that said, "I am now about to make the great adventure. I cannot endure this agonizing pain any longer. It's all over my body. I pray the Lord my soul to take. Amen." Next up, in the movie The Adventures of Milo and Otis, it's been reported that upwards of 20 cats were killed during the filming of the movie. There's a lot of speculation behind this, because the film somehow got the approval of the American Humane Society, despite not having their officers present during filming.
How? Someone wasn't doing their job, man. They tried to cut
Blood-curdling
corners.
facts that you wish you never knew. Part 19.
Facebook was forced to shut down 2 artificial intelligence robots named Alice and Bob because they started communicating with one another in their own language. If you ever win the lottery, you're 120 times more likely to be killed by an immediate family member. A sloth has nipples in its armpits. In the 17th century, there was a man named Tare who could eat his entire body weight in just one sitting. And despite being pretty skinny, he would swallow live animals, eat human corpses, and was even accused of eating the body of a 3-year-old toddler. An 11-year-old boy named Konorak escaped Jeffrey Dahmer's apartment, but was later returned to Dahmer by police, and he killed the boy just 30 minutes after. It's commonly believed in religion that angels look like this, but according to the Bible, they actually look like this.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day.
Okay.
This 82-year-old woman went to the doctor for pelvic pain. She had been carrying a mummified fetus in her womb for over 40 years. The fetus was completely calcified and deemed the stone baby. Alcohol kills 1 person every 10 seconds worldwide. As whales reach old age, they don't have the strength to come up to the surface for air. This causes them to drown and sink to the bottom of the ocean. Bill Lewis, aka Mr. Mosby from the Disney Channel, was arrested for manslaughter and driving while intoxicated back in 1991. Due to scorching hot summers, Siberian bears have been digging up dead bodies from nearby cemeteries for food. It's like they see the cemeteries as giant refrigerators. Refrigerators have magnetic doors now because children used to die in them. Before the 1950s, refrigerators could be only opened from the outside. Toddlers' teeth are right below their eyes.
Whoa. That's a scary image, man. The skull, bro, the teeth beneath the eyes. It really breaks my mind sometimes how the human body works. Jinn.
Demon that has been known to possess animals or humans. What's terrifying is that you could see that the water sounded and looked like it actually hit something before falling to the ground. So even though we couldn't see it, we could hear it, and you could see that the water physically hit it.
We're learning about Jinn, so.
Urban legends I've ever heard, and it ended up being true. But in Canada, there was this legend that one night a bunch of people saw a bright blue light in the sky, and the next day an entire village of people disappeared. But it turns out that legend is rooted in something that really happened. This is coming from this week's episode. I have a whole series on urban legends that ended up being true, and it's a very scary listen. So in Canada in 1930, a fur trapper named Joe LaBelle was riding in the river in his canoe when he came to a village he had seen before. Except this time when he came upon it, it looked like everyone had left in a hurry. Food was still cooking, and a bunch of dogs were barking and super hungry as if they had been left behind. But the strangest part of all of this was in the middle of the community, there was a grave that had been disturbed. And that reminded the fur trapper of a very scary story he had heard. The legend of the Torn Rack, which was this demon that supposedly stalked the area. So he starts looking for someone who might know what happened to these people. They were a nomadic people. It didn't make any sense that they would have left all of their stuff behind. And that's when he finds a man in a hospital who was potentially part of the village. The man is so freaked out. He won't say anything at first, but eventually Joe gets him to talk, and he recognizes one word that the man says. Tornrak, the name of the evil deity that was potentially in the area. The police basically don't believe any of this, but they do acknowledge that before the disappearance, they did see blue lights in the sky that no one has been able to figure out what they were. I get more into the theories of what may have happened in this episode, and I also talk a little bit more about other urban legends that ended up being true.
Hey, remember this nonsense, the cheetah gator? Yeah, this was real, and there was a time where it was everyone's problem. His actual name is the Ari Pasukas, and his hood is in what is now South America and Africa. And the memes are true. He was a land op, meaning he would run his prey down. Scientists believe the Ari Pasukas would have galloped after its prey. Luckily for everything around it, it was actually a mini-me that only grew to about 3 to 5 feet long, and it probably only ate small lizards, mammals, and dinosaur hatchlings. Now, if this guy pulled up on you, it would be a very different movie. Caprosuchus saharicus was a 23-foot middle finger with teeth that looked like it belonged to a feral pig, which is actually why they were nicknamed the boar croc. And unlike crocodiles today, whose eyes are at the top of their head, the Caprosuchus's eyes were more lateral. You might not realize it, but that's very bad, because instead of just hiding in the water with just its eyes above the surface, this assault weapon with teeth had binocular vision and depth perception, meaning not only was it catching bodies on land, it was probably chasing them down too. And unlike its smaller cousin, it probably clapped dinosaurs. And if Google's right, this 23-foot monster with boar jaws would have been almost as fast as Usain Bolt, and they would have attacked you by slamming this down into you like a sledgehammer. The only reason they're not around today is even nature knows when it's gone too far.
Lucky, bro.
CERN has accidentally opened multiple portals all around the world, and strange creatures are coming out. Part 2. They have discovered a new creature called a Dracohound. Their diet has consisted of small berries, rodents, and other vegetation. Another animal that they discovered is called flutterpaws. They've also found forest sentinels, which are beetle-like creatures, eating things like plant matter, fungi, and insects. Now the scary part is they found one of these portals under the ocean. Strange ships have been popping out of them. The technology in these ships are way more advanced than ours, and scientists believe that humanoid creatures are flying these things. Make sure you hit that follow button because part 3 is wild.
CERN open up portals? Nothing new.
Space, and from all my years of education, this is the scariest fact I know. There is a cosmological model for the future of the universe called the Big Rip, and it tells us how the universe might end. You've been warned. As our universe expands, it continues to speed up, getting faster and faster, and from everything we know about physics, it's not going to slow down. If this is true, in around 22 billion years from now, the force of dark energy driving the universe's expansion will overcome all other forces of physics, literally causing galaxies to be destroyed, the solar system to be ripped apart, Earth will then explode, and finally, the literal atoms in everything will be ripped apart. So if any humans are around then, they will be literally ripped apart, atom by atom, from the universe itself. Enjoy your dreams tonight.
Further that you look
Expanding
into
too
the darkness,
fast.
you start to realize just how dark it really is. This woman behind me, this is Lorene Wallace. She was the first female governor of Alabama, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 cervical cancer. Dark history for Lorene was that, legally, doctors did not have to tell her. They only told her husband. Please let that sink in. She was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, terminal cancer, and only her husband was told. Her husband decided not to tell her. Legally, he didn't have to. It was thought at the time that women's nerves were too fragile to be able to handle news like this, so only their husbands were told. I think we're probably going to cover this on the podcast, because this is actually a pretty in-depth story, if you want to listen. Basically, the way this story ends is that Lorene, she does become governor. She runs, but she only lives through the first year of her term. She was never initially told she was dying.
Creepy last words people
That's
said right
insane,
before
man.
dying. A 20-year-old gang member was dying of primary liver cancer. In his last days, hours, and moments, he was angry. The family called the hospice nurse into the room and told her that they thought he was going. He wasn't responding, his eyes were glossy, his skin was cold, the end was imminent. His lovely mother whispered to him to go towards the light, to her Jesus. He opened his eyes, looked at her, and said, "F your Jesus." A second or two later, he slowly turned his head to the left and got the most horrific look on his face, as if he was looking at something that they couldn't see. And horrified, his face contorted, and he screamed with his last breath, eyes wide, "Oh sh*! Oh sh*! Oh no!" Then he made a guttural noise and promptly fell back into the bed and died. Every family member was shaking and too frightened to speak. The hospice nurse left the room and took 2 days off. She said she doesn't care if she never finds out what he saw.
What did he see?
This is the most dangerous man on the entire Earth. This guy right here is Marc Dutroux, and what he did will genuinely leave you speechless. There's a lot of crazy crime and really disturbing stuff going on in the world at the moment, and this guy apparently was thought to be part of similar rings as well. So this guy's Marc Dutroux and his wife Michelle Martin. In the 80s and 90s, he bought many houses in Belgium and would use each one as a separate dungeon, going out into the streets, getting people, bringing them back and doing things that I cannot speak about here, but full videos on my YouTube, go to the link in my bio. Underneath the home, he built a soundproof chamber so no one would hear a damn word, and went on to take many people, putting them under the ground and undergoing the most horrendous things ever. Eventually he was caught for doing R and other things to over 5 young people, and went to jail and got released within 3 years, and going back to do more, but this time not leave anyone alive.
No mother even called the police and said what he was doing. They didn't really do anything. Eventually going round while 2 people were in the basement, and they left. I can't talk about most of it on here, but go to my YouTube link to buy it for the full thing.
Facts that will mess
Crazy
with your
story.
perception of time. Sharks are older than the rings of Saturn by hundreds of millions of years. If you were given $10,000 every single day since the pyramids were built, you would only have about 6% of Elon Musk's entire wealth. To give a clear picture of the difference between a million and a million seconds ago was a little over a week ago. A billion seconds ago was the year 1990. Jimmy Carter was the first president to be born in a hospital. Obama was the first president born under the same American flag he served as president under. Harriet Tubman was born in Thomas Jefferson's lifetime and died in Reagan's. There were Greek playwrights who wrote shows nearly 2,000 years before Shakespeare was even alive. Follow for more.
Well, Shakespeare was copy or something?
First, there's a lot about the type of person that you are. First of all, take a look at this photo right here. If you first of all notice 3 flying birds, that means you're a very adventurous person and are constantly looking for the next big thing. You're very motivated to following your hopes and dreams at any cost. If first of all you notice the face of a woman, this means you crave companionship and love being around people, and also potentially want to actually establish a relationship with someone pretty close to you right now. If you saw the trees first, that means you're a very relaxed and laid back person and you just go with the flow. Next up, take a look at this photo right here. If you saw the trees first, you trust your gut and always follow your own intuition. Not a very trusting person and will always go off what's best for yourself. However, if you saw the tiger first, you're a very open-minded person, but very, very strong-minded as well. Once you set your mind to something, no one's telling you otherwise. This photo right here. You saw the trees first, you could potentially be a little bit narrow-minded. You like being comfortable in one area, which isn't a bad thing, and are just comfortable in one position with your group of people. However, if you saw the skyscrapers, you like to think big, follow your dreams, and like to be completely outside of your comfort zone at all times.
Where'd you guys see Seekers on those pictures, man? I definitely saw the tiger, I saw the trees, and I saw the 3 birds lining up perfectly, so that's I have some of those streets. You guys see anything else, man? Because I know everybody's not going to see the same thing. That's an edit. Call out how we see it, man.
Test your phobia. Thalassophobia.
I'm okay. Guess that's the fear of water, right? Deep, dark water. I don't think that affects me very much. I'm cool. Damn. I think it did that. Like I said, the fear of water, I don't...
Gruesome facts you didn't know, part 156. This photo, taken by a PetSmart employee in Arizona, shows a freezer overflowing with the bodies of dead animals due to understaffing. Another employee reported that cutting corners has led to hamsters eating their young after giving birth. As a last-ditch effort defense mechanism, the horned lizard can actually shoot blood from its eyes. After the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, looters, scavengers, and even surviving soldiers were taking teeth out of dead soldiers left on the battlefield. They would sort them into sets and then sell them to dentists who would boil them, cut off the roots, and shape them into dentures.
That's insane, bro. Using dead people's teeth as dentures.
Random facts about Australia because I just love y'all that much. The word selfie came from Australia. It was first used by Aussie man Nathan Hope when he posted a picture after he busted his ass while drinking. There's more kangaroos than people. Since kangaroos are the white-tailed deer of down under, it's common to eat kangaroo meat. I've actually had a kangaroo burger, and it was not bad. Y'all are home to the most venomous snake, fish, octopus, spider, which I didn't even bother putting here, one of the few venomous mammals, and the most dangerous bird in the world. That doesn't compare to the most venomous thing of all. Because the most venomous things in the world, the box jellyfish and the irukandji, are from Australia. Somehow, with all the dangerous animals in Australia, the one responsible for the most names on Twitter bios, horses and cows. Y'all are so afraid of spiders and snakes, but a horse is more likely to kick your lights out. But it's not all bad. Y'all do have the happiest animal in the world, the quokka. Fun fact, really happy fact actually, they're not endangered. They're vulnerable, so they're not 100% safe, but they're definitely not going extinct. Which is great because Rottnest gets about $4 million in tourism every year, and the quokka selfie is a big reason why. Australia also has the longest fence in the world at 3,488 miles. Supposed to keep rabbits out, but I guess they forgot rabbits can dig.
I've seen my fair share of cults, and this one
Crazy
is pretty
facts.
weird. This cult calls themselves the Cult of Mother God, and it's run by this woman here, Amy Carlson. She calls herself Mother God, creator of the universe, and she pretty much believed that she was being controlled by the spirit of Robin Williams himself. And not only him, but she could also channel information from other celebrities who weren't alive and even were alive, Donald Trump. But yeah, like Steve Irwin, Carrie Fisher, MJ. With everything in her, she believed that all this advice she was giving people was coming from Robin Williams himself. Her parents claimed she was a straight-A student, and sometime between 2000 to 2007, she meets a man named White Eagle as she was frequenting a website called lightworkers.org. She's pretty much convinced she's a divine being by this man, and she leaves her husband, her job, and kids, moves to Colorado with this cult. They'd start posting in 2009 and would call themselves the Galactic Foundation of the Light. Amy's health starts declining very badly to where she starts losing weight. She's down to 103 pounds. And this cult believes that Robin Williams is going to come down in a spaceship and pick her up. She can't weigh over 103, and she's going to ascend. Her health continues to decline, and Robin Williamson is nowhere to be found. He doesn't show up in his spaceship. So this group spends about 12 days with her body. I forgot to mention, but she was last seen alive on April 10th of 2021. But yeah, police would eventually break in and find Amy's body, her face covered in glitter, body in a sleeping bag, wrapped in Christmas lights. Kind of like a shrine, they called it.
Man, cults are dangerous, bro. Especially when you meet somebody, man, it just changes your freaking perception of reality.
Most terrifying urban legends from around the world. In 1978, a girl named Catherine went missing after she heard strange noises coming from the woods behind her backyard. Her sister said Catherine heard the voice of their mother calling to her, but something about this voice sounded distorted and wrong. That was one of the first sightings of Siren Head, a tall humanoid creature with unusually long limbs and 2 siren speakers attached to his head with human mouths inside. This allows the Siren Head to play the voices of its victims' families to lure them in. This creature is usually found in rural places and small towns, making it easier to blend into the environment and disguise itself between the trees or as a telephone pole. So remember, next time you hear the voice of a family member coming from an unusual place, don't go investigating. And follow for more stories.
Siren Head, man. That's the first time I'm hearing the lore about that, so I guess we're out at night, especially when she say in rural towns or something like that, areas you don't know. If you hear somebody call your name, family member, you never know. Someone's trying to something is trying to play a trick on your mind, man. Trying to lure you out there.
Allergy facts. 91% of people are no longer friends with someone they called their best friend. The person you think before you go to sleep is more likely to appear in your dreams. Unexpected texts from the person you care about can have a positive effect on your body and instantly improve your week.
Really? That makes sense.
These freak-offs, which involved groups of people performing sexual activities with each other, reportedly started in 2009. These parties were described as multi-day events involving heavy drug use, alcohol, and allegedly Diddy used force, threats, and coercion to make victims participate in these events. These substances that were used at these freak-offs were there to keep participants compliant, and basically it got people so intoxicated that they were sometimes taken advantage of. These freak-offs were held in rented hotel rooms and mansions in New York, LA, and Miami. But this is the thing, Diddy was so known and popular back in the early 2000s that everyone you can possibly think of was at his parties that he hosted. There's photos of A-list celebrities such as Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, and J-Lo, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jay-Z, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, Ashton Kutcher, Paris Hilton, and the list goes on. Now, were they all necessarily involved in these freak-offs? Not everyone, but it's been said that many of them were participating in these activities and some of them weren't but knew about it. And if they were involved in this back in the day, they don't want people to know now. And after all of this was released to the public, these celebrities have been really quiet and no one wants to speak on it at all.
Now if you want to hear
man, those Diddy freak-offs, man, I know that list, probably A-list celebrities, freaking not just celebrities, sports players too, NBA players, NFLs. Because like I said, it was popular back in the 2000s. So everybody was at those parties, man. So we don't know who was doing what, man. Maybe some of them were, some of them wasn't. So that's just freaking insane, bro. Those Diddy freak-offs, man. When that whole lore or list gets revealed of who was doing what, some more people gonna be going down, man. I don't think it's just gonna be Diddy. What do you think?
Scary myth. This is one that actually turned out to be true. This was like way back in the day, but there was this infamous funhouse called Laugh in the Dark. Like any other kind of funhouse ride attraction that you would go through, it's supposed to scare you. And the whole thing about it was that it was filled with these creepy mannequins, but there was one mannequin that stuck out to everybody. All this time went by with kids who would go up to this mannequin and something seemed off about it because it was so oddly lifelike. Of course, strange mannequins aside, somebody was going to make a buck off this place. So there was a day when a film crew came in because they were going to shoot a movie. With all these mannequins and everything kind of lying around, they had to move things from one place to another. So the director said, can you pull that mannequin and put it to the side? Wait for the arm of the mannequin to snap off and reveal human bone. The entire time that kids and the public had been suspecting there was something off with that mannequin, they were right. It was a real human body being used in the funhouse.
This is a scary story about Do Not Open. There was an 18-year-old girl named Mia who was in her first year of college. She lived alone in an apartment near her university. One night when she was doing the dishes, she got a call from her friend Pete. She picked it up and he said, I'm bored, I want to hang out. Mia said, yeah, me too, come over. Pete then said he'll be over in 15 to 20 minutes. She then hung up and decided to take a shower. Mia was in the middle of shampooing her hair when she suddenly heard a loud banging on the door. She stuck her head out of the shower and said, come in, it's open. But a few minutes later, the banging on the door started again. She then stuck her head out of the shower again and said, come in, it's not locked. Just then, her phone started to ring, and it was Peter. Mia said, I'm in the shower, why don't you stop knocking and just come in? Peter's voice sounded extremely scared and he said, do not open the door. Mia said, why not? I'm outside your apartment building, whispered Peter. And I just saw a strange woman coming up the stairs to your apartment covered in blood and holding a knife. And she was smiling weirdly and didn't look human at all.
You never know, man, who's lurking. Had the right access to her apartment. His girlfriend, man, warning her, bro.
The same day this guy was released from jail, he went and killed and then decapitated his mother. His name is Alejandro Gonzalez, and this happened in Arizona. The police did arrest the 25-year-old after he killed and decapitated his mother right before her birthday. This happened on September 27th after somebody called 911. When the police got to the scene, they found her decapitated. Her name was Teresa de Jesus Cruz Rubio. She failed to show up to her surprise birthday party. Obviously, her family got really worried and they found her door locked, so they had to call a locksmith to come and open it. It was unfortunate that they opened it and saw a horrible scene. Police found blood and knives everywhere, with the shower and sink still running as if somebody was trying to clean the evidence. Her vehicle was also missing, but surveillance camera footage caught her son driving it. Police found Alejandro Gonzalez the next day on September 28th and took him into custody for questioning. He was covered in blood and had bruises all over his hand. He was also in possession of his mother's stolen vehicle. He even admitted to decapitating and killing her as well. He also claimed someone else was involved, but there's no evidence that points to that right now. Let me know your thoughts about this case in the comment section below, guys.
If you're a kid, make sure you shower. This, my friends, is the skunk ape. Click the plus, drop a like, tag a friend, or he might find you. It is said that the skunk ape gets its name of its absolute disgusting odor, and its attraction to other very smelly odors. On top of that, its appearance resembling a massive ape. It is also said to be roaming around certain parts of Florida, so if you live there, I would definitely be careful. My question to you guys is, do you still not want to shower?
They made the freaking lore, bro, to get people to shower? That's insane.
This is one of the most haunted places I've ever been to, and I won't go in here alone. It's an old abandoned nursing home outside of Waco, Texas. And if you're wondering why it was shut down, it was because an elderly woman was left here in the parking lot in a locked van on a hot day, and she died. Abuse and other crimes against the elderly run rampant at nursing homes, and this place was no stranger to it. I went there for my YouTube channel a couple of years ago, and the video footage that I captured inside is shocking. I found a doll hanging by a noose. I heard the sounds of people inside the building and talking, and it looks like there's someone still there. Would you explore this place with me? Let me know below.
Nah, I stay away from that type of energy. You got it, bro. I don't know how those people do it.
Facts you didn't know about. If
ever discovers that you have eyeballs, it's going to attack them until you go blind. At some point in time, a stranger has thought of killing you. If you're ever exposed to rabies and start to show symptoms, your survival chance is virtually 0%. You should never use bleach to clean up cat pee. The combination creates chlorine gas that is toxic. You are never 100% safe, no matter where you are or how you feel. If the sun exploded right now, you wouldn't know about it for another 8 minutes. There's a brain-eating amoeba that lives in lakes and rivers of the southern United States.
So because I'm back in like my Halloween thing right now, I was rewatching all of the Texas Chainsaw movies, and I was racking my brain because I'm like, I know this is somewhat based off of a true story. Thinking to myself, I know the movies have been sensationalized, but there's definitely a name behind this. So I did some research. Completely forgot about Ed Gein. This guy was the original inspiration behind Leatherface because of the things he did, and specifically the things he made. For something like 17 years, he was exhuming bodies. He was also making people disappear, if you know what I mean? Creating these morbid and grotesque items, leather items out of their skin. It's kind of eerie to think that his neighbors, people locally, they just didn't know who he was. He was just the isolated man who lived in an old house and stayed to himself. But if you do want more information on this, we're probably going to cover it in a Creep Time podcast.
You never know what somebody's capable of, man. Like I said, he was the guy who stayed to himself. And look what he was capable of, man.
Thanks to Warner Brothers for sponsoring this video. This October, the greatest villain of all time returns to theaters in Joker Folie à Deux. Joker Folie à Deux is a direct sequel to Joker, which is one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. But what made Joker different from the rest is that Joaquin Phoenix didn't just play the Joker, he became the Joker. Phoenix lost over 52 pounds for the role. He isolated himself during the preparation process and even improvised intense scenes like smashing the clock and his haunting dance scene in the bathroom. Phoenix went through an intense physical and psychological transformation to become the Joker, and it paid off, becoming the first R-rated movie to cross $1 billion at the box office. And luckily, the iconic character is returning to the big screen for Joker Folie à Deux, with Phoenix reprising his role as Arthur Fleck, and Lady Gaga taking on the role of Harley Quinn. This sequel dives even deeper into the mind of Joker and explores more of the dark, grounded Gotham universe that we want to see. And you can grab tickets now for Joker Folie à Deux, which hits theaters October 4th.
The goofiest serial...
Also, I had to stop there. Anybody guys see Joker Folie à Deux, man, we know that I heard it wasn't it, man, that people did not like it, and the ending was that let's just say it was bad. That's what I heard. I don't know. Tell me down below if you guys actually seen it. I would have checked that out.
Serial killer nicknames. This is Cayetano Santos Godinho, the teenage Argentinian serial killer. By the age of 16, he committed 4 murders, 5 arsons, 11 assaults, 1 attempted kidnapping, and the murder of 3 animals. He was also once jailed for chronic self-pleasuring, which was illegal at the time. This monster from Argentina was appropriately nicknamed the Big-Eared Midget.
The Big-Eared Midget? What the type of name is that?
These animals were recently discovered, and the last one is unbelievable. This first one is a wolf monk, and they're highly aggressive, and they eat everything. This is a crowilla. These are super intelligent creatures who swoop down and steal your food, but they write a thank you card after. This is a louse, and these creatures are found all over the world. They wait for you to go to sleep, and they hide under your bed, then they come out and bite your toe. This is a raniwi. These are super fast creatures with the temper of a honey badger. This is a catfin, and these are some of the most dangerous new creatures ever found. They swim through the water fast like torpedoes, but they are known to knock everything off boats. The canny is a much safer option though, although they're kind of messy on both ends, kind of like leaving little landmines everywhere. This is a dogster, and they're one of the safest to be around. And even though that boy thick, they don't eat that much food. The monkola is highly vicious though. They sleep most of the day, but if you wake them up, they throw buckets of poo at you. This is a squinky, and they're to be avoided at all costs. If they see you walking with food, they come and steal your food and then wait. And if you're still there, they eat you next. The chisel is the next white meat. They're said to taste like chicken. And the pingo is a new favorite pet by some people. They are so friendly to the point that they annoy you to where you want to punch them.
Whatever you do not feel bad for this woman. This woman's name is lovely Kristen Antoinette Johnson, and she had a 6-month-old baby. But one more thing is, she was a severe drug addict, and she would often invite friends over to her house or go to her friends' houses to do drugs. And when she would do this, she would just lock her son up in a car seat and leave him inside the house. and she would place him in the attic where she wouldn't be able to hear him. Well, on this particular occasion, the little baby went 4 days without any food and starved to death. Apparently, the baby had diaper rash so severe his skin was literally falling off. When she found the baby, his body was already decomposing, and she still took him to the ER and got arrested there. And she was sentenced to 20 to 80 years in prison for the murder of her baby.
Thanks, man. You take certain substances.
Have you ever wondered what happens when you drink too much water? Well, 35-year-old Ashley Summers drank 64 ounces of water in a span of 20 minutes and passed away from water toxicity. Ashley, her husband, and 2 daughters were at Lake Freeman in Indiana when she began feeling dehydrated. So she drank 4 bottles of water because for some reason she wasn't able to quench her thirst. Ashley complained about having a horrible headache and she began to feel lightheaded. When she got home with her family, she passed out in the garage and she was taken to the hospital where the doctor said she had brain swelling. Ashley never woke up and she was pronounced dead from water toxicity. A toxicologist said that this is more likely to happen to someone who's extremely dehydrated, which will cause them to drink too much water and not enough sodium or electrolytes. So remember, bring more than just water on really hot days, especially if you're under the sun for a long period of time. This day...
That's actually insane, man. Someone passed away from drinking too much water. Like she said when we were growing up, it was also, drink water, be hydrated. Man, the more you know, Seekers.
Her owner shot her husband twice after she found this out. Shantiri Weems and her husband James owned this daycare called Kids Castle. On July 2022, a woman whose child was attending Kids Castle approached Shantiri and told her that her daughter was being molested by James. Shantiri lost it, and in that moment, she made her way to a hotel in Washington, D.C. where James was staying at and shot him in the neck and thigh. Shantiri admits that her intentions were to paralyze James because she was just so angry. Keep in mind, Shantiri loved kids and her job, and she wanted this daycare to be something where kids felt like they were safe. And she said after seeing the pain in this mother's face, she snapped. James had contact with 93 children, and most of them rode on the daycare bus with him, which is where most of the abuse happened. And this story only gets more disturbing, and James was also a retired Baltimore police officer. But ultimately, Shantiri was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and the judge said that she should have never taken the law into her own hands. James, on the other hand, faces 30 counts of child sexual abuse and assault charges.
There has been a horrifying discovery
Crazy
in
case.
Florida. Police have recovered 3 suitcases from the Delray Beach containing remains of a mystery woman. On July the 21st, police received a call about something suspicious in the water. When police got to the scene, they found human remains in the first suitcase and shortly after found 2 other cases. A homicide investigation is underway and police have revealed this image of what they believe the victim to have looked like. The image also roughly shows what her clothing may have looked like as well. They believe that the victim was killed between a period between the 17th and the 20th of July. She's believed to have been between 35 and 50 years of age. Based upon what they have found, they believe that she was about 5'4" in height. Investigators are appealing to members of the public for any help in identifying the victim. They're also asking anyone who lives in that general area to check their security cameras for anything that might be useful towards the case.
Be careful where you at.
As the Grim Sleeper, responsible for killing between 10 and 25 plus people, got the name the Grim Sleeper is because apparently he went on a 14-year hiatus, for which he eventually started killing again, which led to him being caught. Deborah Jackson was a mother of 3 in which she was shot 3 times by a .25 caliber gun. He would only kill women. So much of the women that he would kill, he would shoot with this certain gun, which he would shoot them in the chest and he would dump their body. The pattern continued and continued as more women were being shot in the chest and dumped in the alley. Investigators weren't really linking the cases until they realized that the odds that the person is shooting somebody in the chest with the exact same gun. They worked on various leads, looked for various people. For the most part, it seemed like they were just going from dead end to dead end. Eventually, in '87, they got an anonymous 911 call in which a witness claims that they saw a woman's body being tossed into an alley. He shared a license plate of the van and what the person looked like. At the scene, investigators discovered a woman later identified as a 32-year-old Barbara, in which she was fatally shot in the chest with a .25 caliber gun. So they have the license plate, so you think, okay, maybe they caught the killer. So the detectives trace the license plate to a van that is at a church, where the keys to the vehicle are very easily accessible to almost anyone.
Damn. They say you want like 14 years between that, man. He never got caught. Well, no, they said they caught him up in the end, but it took 14 years, man. Goes to show you, man. Justice, karma, it'll come to you, man. It may take a couple months, days, months, or years, but it's that energy going to right back to you.
For nothing.
The most disgusting case. Nostalgic Ike. He went to one of the restaurants to buy food and coffee. When he opened the coffee, he found cockroaches' legs.
Hell
he
no.
also returned his coffee to employees, and he got new coffee. But after the coffee was purchased, more cockroaches' feet were in the coffee.
What the fuck?
Bonus photo.
I'm always checking now, bro. Always open that lid up, Seekers. We don't know what's in there. Some crazy info we learning.
Here's the second part of the body cam footage of Chad Dorman, the monster, the so-called father, who unalived his 3 sons in a way that I cannot even describe on here. But before I show you the video, the cop and the way he reacts in this video and how he talks to the suspect is 100% how I would talk to him.
Can we get the wallet out of my back pocket? Shut up, dude. Yeah, the rest remain solid. Fucking Jesus.
There's a wallet for what? It's in his pocket.
Horror movies with the biggest plot twist that you won't see coming. The movie we're talking about today has one of the most unique and insane stories I've ever seen.
Talk
Living
about
is
it.
a French horror movie about a nurse taking care of an old woman who used to be a famous ballet teacher. The old woman is in a coma, but she's very rich and lives in a mansion. There's also a mysterious key that's always around her neck. So the nurse, her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's brother decide to rob her, as it's rumored there's some kind of treasure hidden in her mansion. And they assume the key around her neck opens the door to the treasure. But when they open that door, they find something else. I'm gonna tell you what they found behind the door, so if you don't want to hear it, just click away now. They found the old woman's dead daughter, whose corpse has been turned into a human ballerina statue. Just like one of those ballerinas dancing in a music box. But don't worry, because there's another twist. You'll also never guess how it ends. I thought it was weird and entertaining and just interesting to watch. So check out Livid and follow for more.
Earlier this week,
Any of you seekers watch that?
California opened up a barrel that was on the beach only to find a body inside, and now a homicide investigation is underway. This past Sunday, a maintenance worker at the Malibu Lagoon State Beach saw a black plastic barrel floating in the lagoon and brought it in with a kayak. He didn't open it at the time, but the next morning, a lifeguard on duty spotted the same barrel back out in the lagoon. He swam out and brought it back into the beach, and when he noticed how heavy it was, he opened it to see what was inside. And that's when he found a man's body. The origin of the barrel is unclear, but it's possible that it was brought in with the tide from the ocean. The man's identity has still yet to be remained as well, and homicide detectives are now investigating and have not released many details. However, they did note that the foot did not look very decomposed, indicating that the body may have not been in there very long. Investigators are also looking into security footage in the area to try to determine where the barrel may have come from and who may have disposed of it. Like I said, they have yet to identify the remains, and the investigation is ongoing. But this is just so eerie, and I hope they can figure it out quickly.
What is it, man? They just put bodies on the beaches. I don't get it. What the hell was that? What the hell was she on? She was not acting normal, Seekers, man. The way she just popped up, that was like 10 times more weirder.
What we know about the 4 Idaho students who were murdered in their house. On November 13th at 12 p.m., 4 University of Idaho students were found stabbed to death in their beds in a home that they shared. The victims were 20-year-old Ethan, 21-year-old Kaylee, 21-year-old Madison, and 20-year-old Zaina. Just a few hours before Madison and Kaylee were murdered at 1:40 a.m., and they were seen on surveillance grabbing some food from a food truck in downtown Moscow. They then took an Uber home, and at around 3 to 4 a.m., their lives were taken. Ethan and Zaina, who were a couple, also arrived to the home around the same time as Kaylee and Madison. There were also 2 other students in the home while the murder took place, but they were not harmed, and they said they did not hear anything. These students in the home were also not the ones who called 911, but police will not release that information. Police do believe that this was a targeted and isolated attack, but they do not have any suspects at the moment. In my opinion, I think there's a lot more to the story, and I hate to say it, but these attacks seem really random, and this may be a serial killer.
That's a tragic case. The hell was they doing on a gurney? Come on, man, with that ass. Think that one was the edit. You can spot those out, man. Y'all spot out the edits, man. Comment down below, bro. Light flickering on and off, what the hell? Is that a edit too? Like someone's trying to grab it?
If I didn't know this was a true crime case, I would think it was a disturbing horror film. On the morning of the 7th of October 2022, a barefoot woman was running around Excelsior Springs, Missouri, bashing on people's doors. Witnesses describe her looking like she came straight from a horror film, and she was calling for help. She'd been beaten, held captive, and SA'd for weeks. The woman was a shocking sight. She was covered in injuries and was wearing a bin bag. Disturbingly, she was gasping for breath as she had a very tight metal collar locked round her neck. It was a nurse who opened the door to her and let her come in. The nurse started to call police, and at this point the woman panicked. She warned her that the captor would kill her and claimed that he had killed her 2 friends. When police got there, the woman explained that a man called Timothy had captured her the month prior. He'd been holding her hostage this whole time. She said he'd been keeping her locked in the basement and had been SAing her. Disturbingly, she told police that he actually had a young son who lived at the house with him. When Timothy had taken his young son to school the one day, she used it as her opportunity to escape. Police made their way to the home of 39-year-old Timothy Haslett Jr. and found the property did in fact have a basement like the woman described. Timothy was arrested and is facing 9 charges including first-degree kidnapping. He's being held on a $3 million bond and faces 5 life sentences. Before his arrest, police were actually called to his address 3 times. Twice they were asked to do welfare checks, and this was from an employer and also family members. Police have searched his home with cadaver dogs, and they haven't yet released what they know.
How didn't they find her those times when the police was there? The hell?
Hello.
Skinwalker is getting weird, bro. It's like a dog, right?
Vultures everywhere. It's odd.
Okay. I don't want to leave. What the fuck? Where the hell are you going? They didn't want to leave. What the fuck? Survivable things, okay. What? How the hell he do that? Yeah, there's no 2 months. That's insane, bro. The hell was in those cases?
In Seattle, Washington, on the 19th of June 2020, a group of friends are using an app called Randonauting. This app gives totally random coordinates for the user to go and follow and then report back what they find. The friends were given coordinates which led them to Alki Beach Pier, where upon arrival they discovered a black suitcase. They go to investigate the suitcase, joking on that it could be filled with money, but as they got closer to it, a disgusting, smelling odour just radiated from it. When they opened the suitcase, it amplified, and they described the smell as overwhelming. Upon opening the suitcase, they found that it was not filled with money. However, it did have several things inside that were wrapped up in bin bags. One of the teenagers, being very responsible, decided to call the police and report the findings. When officers arrived, they almost immediately cordoned off the area and asked everyone to leave. This is now a crime scene. Inside the suitcase, they found the dismembered remains of a human body. Searches were carried out all around the area where the suitcase was found, and these searches turned up several more bags, all of which had more dismembered human remains inside. It was established that the bodies of a male and female had been found. 11 days later, their bodies were identified. They had found 27-year-old Austin Wenner and 35-year-old Jessica Lewis. It was determined that both Austin and Jessica had been victims of a beating before being fatally shot. Austin had been shot 7 times and Jessica had been shot once. It was estimated that they had died 10 days prior to being found. Jessica was a mother of 4 who worked caring for disabled adults, and this just reflected the type of person she was. She was described as kind, caring, and just a ray of sunshine. She and Austin had been in a happy relationship for around 8 years, and although her 4 children were not fathered by him, he still loved them and he brought them up as if they were his own. Austin was someone who had a big heart and a love for the outdoors. He loved all things camping, dogs, trucks, country music. They lived together in a room that they rented off of 63-year-old Michael Dudley, and it was in this house that they were last seen alive. Now that investigators knew their victims, they were able to properly start finding out what had happened to them. Phone records show that one of them from the couple had had a phone call with Michael only 7 minutes before their phones shut off and weren't used again. On the night of the murder, a neighbour of Michael's had rang the police saying that she had heard a man pleading, quote, "Please don't do this, just let me leave," before she heard several gunshots. When officers arrived to the house, it was in darkness and there was no movement inside, so they thought no one's home, so they simply turned around and left.
On this same night, a new tenant of Michael's arrived at the house. This was 1 hour after police had been there and Michael was home and let her in. She noticed that in one of the rooms it seemed like someone was lay on the floor and not moving, that there was clothes thrown over them in order to try and disguise that they were there. She noticed that this person had a bloody arm and she questioned Michael about it, to which he responded, quote, "My gun worked and his didn't. Now please move along, I have a mess to clean up." She also noted that his glasses were broken and it looked like he had fresh scratch marks on it. On the 19th of August, Michael is arrested and his house is searched. During the search, there was a thick smell of bleach around the house and one of the rooms seemed to have been recently redecorated, having fresh paint on the wall. There were bullet holes in the walls and they also found blood in the room that the new tenant had said she saw someone on the floor. Michael's arrest shocked the community as he portrayed himself to be a very soft, sweet and helpful man, but that was very far from the truth. Michael had a criminal record dating back over 20 years. His record consisted of things such as trafficking, grand theft auto and possession of drugs. His own daughter even applied for a restraining order against him after he sexually assaulted her over a period of 9 years. In December 2022, Michael was found guilty of 2 counts of second-degree murder by a jury. The jury took only 1.5 days to deliberate. It's believed that Michael had murdered Austin and Jessica because they couldn't afford their rent for the next month, and they were paying $1,500 in rent just for one room. He was clearly very much taking advantage of them. Only last week, on the 8th of April, Michael was handed a 46-year sentence.